And
You,
it
you
came
think
up again when they
are these nice trains?
between jobs. So to occupy. Go volunteer up at the trolley.
All right. All right. Well, we're back on Zoom. Just after two really fun meetings at the fire station, we're back here. Anyway, good evening. I'm Tom Boak, Chairman of the Kennebunkport Planning Board. This is a virtual planning board meeting using Zoom conferencing format. The agenda is on the town's website, and information is out there for people to participate in the Zoom conferencing format. If you wish, excuse me, to participate through Zoom, you can join webinar ID 891-0301-9123, or you can dial in at 929-205-6099 and then punch the meeting ID with a pound sign. You can also watch us on channel 1301 or stream us on YouTube channel Kennebunkport Television. During the meeting, only the planning board and current participant who are selected by the board will be on screen with audio connected. All other participants will be blacked out and audio muted except when the board solicits input. Tonight, we don't have any public meetings, so I'm not going to go and tell you how to do it because you don't need to. You can just watch. Please do. Anyway, so the quorum is 3 members, and we have 5 of our 6. We're still short one. Scott is out today. It's his birthday. His wife decided to surprise him and take him out to dinner. So I allowed us how that was probably more important than listening to people reading finding of facts. Anyway, so let me take the attendance officially. Tom Boak is here. Nina?
Here.
Ed?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
George?
Here.
Okay, so George, you're a voting member for the night because Scott is excused. Okay, there's no minutes to approve, so we'll approve 2 minutes next time, I guess. Which brings us actually to the first item on our agenda, which is item 220303, Noonan's Lobster Hut Incorporated, Richard, Keith, and Terry Noonan, site plan review, proposed outdoor seating for 32 customers at number 1 Mills Road in Cape Porpoise Square zone. So, is someone from Noonan's out there? I was supposed to ask of attendance if there are any watchers out there. So, David, is there? Cool. Okay. All right. Very good. So if I could bring the Noonans forward to present.
Yep. Yeah, I would request that you bring Terry forward.
You need to unmute and turn on your camera.
Mute.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry. It's our first Zoom. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
So we have your application, and I guess if you could give us a brief overview of what you're proposing to do down at the Lobster Hut.
We want to add some seating outside, the same thing we did for COVID. So it'd be out front, 32 people.
So I'm happy to give a little bit of background to this application. Since I know, oftentimes, the board wants to understand, why an application is in front of them. In this case, Noonan's is a conditional use, but it is a permissible use in the zone that it's located in. So this expansion is something that the board can consider. And as you all know, during COVID, the town was able to make certain temporary allowances for businesses. In particular, with restaurants, we were able to work with folks for additional outdoor seating. And so, and this was with the understanding that this was temporary during the state of emergency. Number of folks have inquired as to what would be necessary in order to keep those types of allowances and do those on a permanent basis. And since it's a conditional use, this type of request falls under the guise of the planning board. So I suspect that many of you all are familiar with Noonan's. Having driven by it, you may have also have seen where they had their temporary outdoor seating located, in the past. So that's just to give you a little bit of context and background. I met also just to add, I visited the site along with Chief Everett of the fire department, as well as with Chief Sanford of the police department, just to review the location. And we made recommendations and will memorialize those in a memorandum as far as what we would like to see in regards to just additional safety measures where the seating is located directly adjacent to Mills Road. So.
Okay. So, excuse me, it is right on the road then, or practically not right on the road, right adjacent to the road.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna do barriers.
So, Werner, are there? Yeah, I understand the conditional use upgrade, and that's that's an easy one. I think. Are there any issues on zoning on the, or just setback issues or anything about this?
No, there's no structures, there's no additional structures proposed for this. This is, one of those few locations where they have more than adequate parking, for what it is that they do there. They have their upper lot and lower lot. Again, it's a matter of putting some picnic tables out and, in a barrier along the front, and the approval of the board just will allow this to happen on a reoccurring basis. So.
Okay. So I guess I understand. All we're doing is really is approving the change of use.
Well, just
the expansion of use, whatever you want to call it.
Correct. You're approving the additional seating. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions for Werner or the or the Noonans?
Well, this looks great. This is Larry here. So, yeah, this is truly additional seating outside the restaurant. It's not going to have any impact on the restaurant itself, right? Or is there any seating inside anywhere? Or is this the only seating available at that location?
No, there's inside seating.
Okay. So, is there going to be additional service? Additional demand for like potable water or toilet facilities or any of that kind of stuff that could result from this addition?
It hasn't. Everything's been fine. The past
Okay, so you actually use you've actually used this configuration for some time already, so you haven't experienced anything. Okay,
it's been done on an emergency basis, and now they want to do it every year because it worked out well.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay, great.
Okay, Nina, do you have anything?
Yeah, I find this application really brief. I'd like to see, I don't know Noonan's that well, but you're asking for an expansion of use. You're in the Shoreland and Resource Protection Zone. you've indicated, Warner has indicated there's adequate parking, so that solves one of my questions, answers one of my questions. But I'd like to see
Oh.
the building and where
Okay,
everything is.
you're in trouble.
And where you're expanding and where the shorelands, are you having trouble? Okay, can you hear me now? Hang on.
Yes. Well, except you're muted, but yes, we could.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm having trouble with my internet connection tonight. So I'm just going to leave the video off to try to make it a little smoother. What I was saying is that normally when we look at an expansion of use, we want to see more detail because, abutters may come in and ask some questions too. It's shoreland and resource protection zones. I'd like to see an outline of the building. I'd like to see indication where the extra seating is, the setbacks, an outline of the shoreland zone, and an outline of the resource protection zone so that I know that we're not going into there and it's in the record. You're on public sewer and public water, so I'm assuming that those are adequate. I'm sure Werner and the others have looked at that. But I'd like a little more detail on the application.
You should have got that all in your packet. The restaurant where the seating was going, there should have been all in your packet that I sent.
I have a brief application. It shows the site. It does not show where the seating is going.
Well, it should, because I took that all to the town office and
Oh,
they
yes,
assured us that you guys would receive it.
yes, April was supposed to get
Yeah,
that to
April.
them because she
Yep.
forgot it.
Okay.
No, we
Werner,
do
Right.
have that.
Okay,
It's in the records. There was, and it was forwarded to the board. Yep. It was, that plan was forwarded to the board. I can forward it to you all again so that you have it. It does not necessarily have an indication of just what you're asking for, Nina, in terms of the shoreland line and the RP line. That is something that I can work with the Noonans on providing that on a sketch. We can show that from the town's maps. As far as the seating is concerned, that occurs entirely within an upland area in an established parking lot.
okay, all right. Well, if I had those in my hands, then, I wouldn't have a problem with the application.
That's
I
fine.
would just wait. I would just wait to see what the abutters say about that, because
Yep.
they're the ones who are going to be, around it. And if there were any noise or anything like that, it is an expansion of use. So,
Yep, and I could work with them to generate that to show where those lines are. So
I just pulled up the thing from, from my email, and there's a lot more pages to it than was sent in the original envelope.
okay, well, maybe I missed it. Maybe my mistake. I just had a lot coming at me this past couple of weeks, so.
Yeah, it was mailed to us on the 22nd of last month.
Okay,
Email, Tom, you're saying?
Emailed, yeah,
okay.
on 4/22.
I'll look for it. That's all I had.
Okay, and it is there. It's just we have to all have to look at it, I guess. So
Tom, perhaps someone could bring it up on their screen and show. I recall looking at that email, and I hate to admit it, but I had the same concern Nina did. with, I don't think, there was something that was added that said, here's where the additional seating is, but it
I
didn't
can,
show me where the additional seating was.
Why don't you pull it up?
Yeah, I've got it. I'll pull it up.
So maybe we're just looking in the wrong place.
Oh, can't see it.
Let's see. All right, no, that's the original submission. Let me pull up the, let me pull up the other one that we have here.
Oh, there it goes.
All right.
Yep, there it
So
is.
yeah, so this was the additional submission. So you can see the outline of the buildings. You know, these buildings here encompass the restaurant, you know, the parking areas and the additional seating is indicated here. I'm just going to scroll on to the next page. Gives you a little bit of additional detail here. You have the kitchen and the dining area, and it's the outdoor seating is just indicative of this drawing out here.
But it doesn't show setbacks.
Dimensions. How many tables are we talking about,
8.
for example?
Eight tables, 8 picnic tables.
8
It says
tables.
that. All right, I didn't get that either.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's as I said, there's not any additional structures here, all within the confines of this existing lot area here. And again, you can roughly see the edge of marsh is approximately runs right here.
Yeah, I didn't understand
So-
that it was already a paved area. One of the questions I had written down was, is there any increase in impervious area?
No.
And you're saying no.
No.
There's no change.
Correct. Yep. And as you can see here, so the Noonans have 2 locations, for parking. There's this area here along the backside, and then there's also this, the striped parking area up adjacent to the road as well.
Well, what do you do if it rains? Is there going to be a tent there over those?
No, I don't like tents.
No, just umbrellas, and we deal with what we have to.
If it rains, they go inside.
Can I ask a couple of questions, Tom?
Oh, absolutely.
It says 32 seats are being added. 30. Is that correct?
No, it's 32 people. It's six,
Yeah, 32 seats.
six, or 8 picnic tables.
8 picnic tables and
8
full.
8 picnic tables.
I was
adds up to-
asking the applicant, how many seats? 32 people?
30.
Yes, 8 picnic tables.
With four each on the picnic
Correct.
tables.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And
So small picnic
so
tables.
you're going to add 32 to the capacity. What is the existing capacity, or what was it without these 32?
84.
84 inside there.
84.
Inside. I
84
believe.
inside.
84, all right. So you're adding a third, roughly. A little more than a third to the capacity. All right. Any additional staff?
No.
No.
So 4 plus 32 is 1. 6 divided by 3. So you're looking for 35 parking spaces, 35 to 40 parking spaces. You got that already?
We have it.
We do.
Okay. Can you just confirm that the address on the application is 11?
9.
No, well, yes, the property's 11 Mills Road, but the restaurant for 911 is 9 Mills Road.
So on the application, it says 9, which looks to be crossed out, and then 11's written over it. And I was unclear as to what it was supposed to be.
Well, the property is 11 Mills Road as far as the town map show.
Yeah.
But for 911, because it's 2 buildings on 1 lot, it had to be 2 different numbers.
So it really is both
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
9 and 11.
that is correct.
Got it. And again, this will be important to us only in that as we capture the results and the findings, we like to get it right.
Mhm.
To the extent we understand it. There's 2 phone numbers given.
Right.
Which one goes with which owner? And which address goes with which owner? So it's Richard and Keith, 11 and 50 Mills Road.
All right,
And there's
11 Mills Road is Richard and 50 Mills Road is Keith.
And the phone numbers?
967-4206
Is,
is 11 Richard.
got it, okay. And that's TERRIL Noonan@gmail.
That is correct.
So that's Richard's line, and then the next one is Keith. Got it. That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I
Okay.
had just one other question. So are your hours of operation going to be affected or
No.
limited by the addition of this outside seating?
No, it's gonna stay the same.
Stay the same.
And what are those hours?
5 till
Right now it's 5 to 8,
5 to 8.
and summertime is 5 to 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending on if we still have people waiting.
Okay, thank you.
George, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to confirm, this is the configuration you have right now. That's what it looks like today.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, it's just that they're going to
Since
put the
COVID.
picnic tables out and
Got it.
want
Well,
our
thanks.
blessing.
Yeah. Fair weather dining.
You bet. It's the least we can hope for.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, well, I guess, is there something, Warner, that you can do to help them get the zones a little bit better delineated for us? The
Sure.
overlays?
Yep, no, we can do that. We can give we can give you all a sense of, of what you're looking for. So again, the marsh kind of runs underneath, part of the existing building. But all of the areas that we're, dealing with here are upland, upland locations, and again, they don't include any additional structures, only, picnic tables, which are not defined as structures. So, but I'm happy to put together, a map that shows what it is, that I hear the board is looking for. So.
But the point was that all of this is outside of that area. This is all in the upland.
Well,
it's in shoreland, of course, but
it's in the shoreland, but it's not within. It's not within your
75 feet of the.
Well, yes, you're within 70. I mean, 75 arguably crosses the street there in that location. But you're not dealing with any. You don't have any structure setbacks here because you don't have any. There's no structure expansion.
But isn't that expanding a commercial use in the shoreland zone?
Which is a permitted use, but there, the setbacks relate to structures.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm sorry to say I do have one final question. I think that just to clarify the percentage, the application says that the percent of the lot occupied by other impervious, parking, walkways, etc., is going to go down by 2% or 1.5%. What's going on there? And the exterior footprint's going up from 0 to 1,000 square feet. Am I reading that correctly?
I have no idea about that.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're looking at there, but I'm not aware of any proposed,
Yeah.
changes of
So
imperviousness.
who wrote these numbers down?
It should all just be existing, and proposed should be the same.
Yeah, so why are they different for the percentage of lot and what is the 1,000 square feet of structure?
Maybe that could just be revisited and corrected.
Yeah, no, we'll have a conversation with that, but
Yeah.
that's, there's
'Cause I
not
think
any,
Shouldn't the answer be not changed, not changed, not changed?
That's
correct.
That's what we're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
It should.
We'll get that clarified, but you're correct. That's all of those items should be NA or NC.
Thank you again.
Okay. So I guess we understand it and we'll need to proceed to a public hearing in a couple of weeks, but I mean, do we declare that it's complete subject to these changes that Werner is going to help them with?
I would make a motion that the application is complete with the changes indicated by the board and also a proper map that shows shoreland and resource protection zoning, any wetlands, and the area of proposed use outlined and marked with, the number of feet, the rectangles marked with the actual area. I think that's necessary for a public hearing so that people know what's, have a clear record of what's going on.
Right. So we'd want that information to be updated in advance of the public meeting, not on the day.
Yep.
Yes.
That's correct. Yep. We'll have them follow your typical process, which is your 7 days, a minimum of 7 days prior to.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
So anticipating that there is no change to the percentage of the lot occupied by other impervious building nor the exterior footprint, and that Werner works to shape this map and it meets our normal criteria, I would move that this is complete upon the receipt of that information.
right.
As long as it's there 7 days before the public meeting, I think that's moves things along.
I would second that motion.
Okay, well, let me go over the board members. So I'm in favor of that motion. Nina?
I will withdraw the first motion and I'm in favor of the second motion,
The one that George just made.
the one that Ed just made.
Ed made and I seconded.
And George seconded.
Whatever, yeah, that was that one. Yes,
Order.
I'm in favor of Ed's seconded by George motion. And Nina is also.
Yes.
And obviously Ed is.
I am. And Nina, apologies. I didn't realize you were making a motion. You broke up during
I'm
that.
sorry about that.
It just wasn't, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's okay. I understand. The internet is very bad with me tonight. The force is not with me.
And I'm seconding all motions, so. Jump right in.
Okay. And Larry is in favor, right?
In favor, yeah.
And George is in favor. So,
Yes, I am.
so with Werner's help, and we'll see you the next time for a public hearing, which is June 1.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
You want a case manager for that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it's funny that you should ask that.
You volunteering, George?
Well, I will.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, it looks good on you.
Or we could stick Larry, the birthday boy is not here, but
Oh, that would be mean.
yes.
But fun.
Okay.
You want to
So
have
we
a
have
you want to have a coin
signatures,
toss
George.
on this, or
Larry, you are welcome to it. I have a
so
day
so I'm
job,
so I'm taking this one.
You are?
if you'd like.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay,
There you
I'll
go.
take the handoff, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Larry is taking this one.
Okay,
I'm
Okay,
not sure what just happened, but
me either, but that's fine.
fine.
can thank me
Okay,
later.
that brings us to 3 consecutive findings of fact, and I will be happy to read the Seesaw Power Trolley Museum when we get to it, Nina.
That would be a good idea.
Okay. But first finding of fact to read is 220301, Brian Glasser and Michael Spinard, Brian Bodette, authorized agent. This is for replacing their house at number 35 Langford Road. So Ed, why don't you proceed with your finding of fact?
Kennebunkport Planning Board findings of fact and decision on the application of Brian Glazer and Michael Spinard with Brian Bodette as the authorized agent for 35 Langsford Road, Cape Porpoise, Maine 04046. Following site plan reviews pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held on the 20th of April and the 4th of May 2022, and a public hearing held on 4 May 2022, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions and renders the following decision subject to the conditions enumerated below. Findings of fact are as follows. The owners of record are Brian Glazer and Michael Spinard with a mailing address of 1258 Osgood Street, number 3401, North Andover, Mass. 01845. The applicant is Brian Bodette, the applicant, with a mailing address of 5 Meadow Drive in Kennebunk, Maine, 04043. In a letter dated 14 March 2022, the owners of record authorized the applicant to act on their behalf in this matter. 4, the property has a street address of 35 Langsford Road, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. 5, the property is identified as map 21, block 11, lot 22 on the municipal tax assessor's maps. 6, the property is located in the Cape Porpoise West Shoreland Protection and Resource Protection Zones. 7, on behalf of the owner, the applicant demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a warranty deed for the property, recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, Book 16-512, pages 124 and 125, on January 18th, 2013. 8, the applicant has applied for a required MDEP permit by rule for the work. 9, the property comprises approximately 0.31 acres, 11,293 square feet, per information provided by the applicant, and is therefore non-conforming. 10, the existing residential property consists of 2 separate buildings, a main residence with a garage and a cottage, neither of which conform to setback distances. 11, in an application dated 14 March 2022, the applicant proposes to demolish existing residence and cottage and rebuild a new single residential structure, the location of which will be within property line setbacks to the greatest extent possible and within the same distance to the marsh as the existing residence. Under section 83B1 of the Land Use Ordinance, the applicant proposes to expand both volume and interior square footage floor area of the new consolidated residence structure. The proposed expanded area and volume both remain within the maximum allowable expansions of 30% each. The total existing interior surface area of both buildings is 2277 square feet, and the proposed interior surface area will be 2495 square feet, an increase of 9.6%. 13, the total existing interior volume is 20,978 cubic feet, and the proposed interior volume will be 26,347 cubic feet, an increase of 25.6%. 14, the existing lot coverage is 28.58%. The proposed lot coverage will be reduced to 24.37%, making it less non-conforming. 15, there is a sewer easement on the property. The owners will take ownership of the sewer pump and relocate the easement to a location on the property as agreed upon by the property owner and the town. 16, applicant requested no submission or performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. 17, a new proposed driveway area of crushed stone will replace the present driveway. 18, there is an easement on an abutter's property to the south, map 21, block 11, lot 21, that was recorded for maintenance of the owner's existing garage. It is suggested that with the new proposed structure, there is no longer a need for this easement and it could be extinguished. 19, because this property is entirely within the shoreland zone, the applicant agreed to restrict the use of fertilizer and pesticides. Specifics of the restriction were not determined, however, possibly limiting application to a single yearly application of only lawn fertilizer was given as a possibility. 20, pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, Guidelines for Decisions, the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings, which would otherwise compel denial. A, the proposed use meets the definition of specific requirements set forth in the Land Use Ordinance and will be in compliance with applicable state or federal law. Finding yes. B, the proposed use will not create fire hazards and will provide adequate access to the site or to the buildings on the site for emergency vehicles. Finding yes. C, the proposed exterior lighting will not create hazards to motorists traveling on adjacent public streets and is adequate for the safety of occupants or users of the site and will not damage the value and diminish the usability of adjacent properties. Finding yes. D, the provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping provide for adequate protection to neighboring properties from detrimental features of the development. Finding yes. E, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting properties as a result of noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, dust, glare, or other cause. Finding yes. F, the provisions for vehicular loading and unloading and parking and for vehicular and pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets will not create hazards to safety. Finding yes. G, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the value of adjacent properties, which could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan. Finding yes. The design of the site will not result in significant flood hazards or flood damage and is in conformance with applicable flood hazard protection requirements. Finding yes. I, adequate provision has been made for disposal of wastewater or solid waste and for the prevention of ground or surface water contamination. Finding yes. Comment, sewer easement will be relocated to a location on the property agreed upon by the owner and approved by the town. J, adequate provision has been made to control erosion or sedimentation. Finding yes. Comment, erosion control measures are addressed in the site plans. K, adequate provision has been made to handle stormwater runoff or other drainage problems on the site. Finding yes. L, the proposed water supply will meet demands of the proposed use or for fire protection purposes. Finding yes. Comment, public water. M, adequate provision has been made for the transportation, storage, and disposal of hazardous substances and materials as defined by state law. Finding not applicable. N, the proposed use will not have an adverse impact on significant scenic vistas or on significant wildlife habitat, which could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan. Finding yes. The proposed use will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion. Finding yes. P, existing off-site ways and traffic facilities can safely and conveniently accommodate the increased traffic generated by the development as far away from the development as the effects of the development can be traced with reasonable accuracy. finding not applicable. When a proposed development will be located within the shoreland zone or the resource protection zone, in addition to the requirements of Article 10, the townwide regulations in Article 6, the performance standards for specific activities and land uses in Article 7, approval of the development will also require that the board makes positive findings based on the information presented that the proposed use A will maintain safe and healthful conditions, finding yes. B will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters, finding yes. C will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater, finding yes. D will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat, finding yes. Comment, the applicant will include appropriate measures to minimize incidents of bird strikes on windows. E, will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters, finding yes. F, will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan, finding not applicable. G, will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use, finding yes. H, is in conformance with the performance standards set forth in Section 5.6, Erosion and Sedimentation Control of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, finding yes. Any negative finding of the board means that the application has been denied. The application is otherwise complete. Conclusions. Articles 10, 10A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision, the site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to Article 10.11 and 10.12.e. 1, the applicant pursuant to 10.12e shall notify the planning board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. 2, the applicant must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the York County Registry of Deeds before any permits may issue or before any construction activity may commence. The applicant shall also provide the town of Kennebunkport with a copy of the MDEP permit by rule prior to commencement of any work. 3, the applicant shall comply with all terms and conditions of the town of Kennebunkport ordinances as well as the main DEP approvals. 4, because this property is on an area of significant bird activity, the applicant has agreed to incorporate measures to reduce bird strikes into the new design. All exterior windows shall utilize such measures. For example, exterior screens, bird-proof glass etching, visual striping, etc. Dated 18 May 2022, the Kennebunkport Planning Board. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ed. So I'd like to have someone agree to make a motion that that's to approve that document.
So moved. I move to approve the finding of facts.
I'll second that. And I'm in favor. Nina?
In favor?
Ed?
Yes, in favor.
Larry?
In favor.
George?
In favor.
Okay, so that one is done. Now, next one is item 220302, Seashore Trolley Museum, Sebago Techniques agent, finding of facts on constructing the model railroad building. So I'm going to read that. Nina did a beautiful job of writing this, so I'm going to read it. Kennebunkport Planning Board Site Plan Application of Seashore Trolley Museum, 195 Log Cabin Road, Kennebunkport, Maine. Application dated March 24th for 3,000 square foot building at the Seashore Trolley Museum site. Following a site plan review pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held April 20th, 2022, and a public hearing held on May 4th, 2022, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings and conclusion and renders the following decision. 1, Findings of fact. 1, the owners of the property and applicants are the New England Electric Railway Historical Society, aka Seashore Trolley Museum, a Maine nonprofit corporation, charter number 194100010ND, hereinafter the museum. The property has a street address of 195 Log Cabin Road, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046, identified as Assessor's Tax Map 3, Block 1, Lot 1 in the Municipal Assessor's Tax Maps. Property is a conditional use located in the Farm and Forest Zone. It consists of 75.4 acres. It is not in flood hazard area. Applicant was represented by Sebago Techniques Incorporated with an office at 75 John Roberts Road, Suite 4A, South Portland, Maine 04106. It has demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a copy of deed of sale July 22nd, 1966, recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, Book 1727, pages 80 and 81. 5 rather. Applicant proposes to build a 1.5-story new 3,000 square foot building to house a model railroad museum and display for visitors. The new museum will have an interior square footage of 2,800 square feet. Percentage of lot occupied by buildings on the site will increase from 2.7 to 2.8%. Total impervious coverage of 4,081 square feet for the new building. Parking and walkways will increase the impervious coverage of the lot from 12.3% to 12.4%. Water for the new building will come from the existing public well on site. Due to the proximity of an existing well, a pump station is proposed to pump the effluent from the proposed building to an existing pump station and septic tank, and then to a leach field. 7. Storm runoff associated with the proposed building will be collected, cooled, and detained through a roof drip filter connected to an existing closed storm drain system. Runoff associated with the new sidewalk will be treated by use of permeable pavers connected to a header pipe and the overall closed storm drain system. 8. The proposed building shall have fire alarm system installed, and 2 dry hydrants on the property will be maintained properly. 9. Electricity shall be supplied from the existing pole across the parking lot where it will drop underground into the building. 10. The proposed museum building is within setback requirements from the nearest property line to Log Cabin Road. 11. A letter from MDEP has approved the proposed project under state law MRS 38, paragraph 488-29, exception for existing development. It also says site law, and it should say state law. So there's a slight fix that maybe April can fix before we actually sign it. Number 12, the applicant has requested no submission waivers or performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. Pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, Guidelines for Decisions, the Planning Board shall approve the site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. A, the proposed use meets the definitions of specific requirements set forth in the Land Use Ordinance and will be in compliance with the applicable state law and federal laws. Finding yes. Excuse me. B, the proposed use will not create fire safety hazards and will provide adequate access to the site or to buildings on the site for emergency vehicles. Finding yes. C, the proposed Exterior lighting will not create hazards to motorists traveling on adjacent public streets or is adequate for the safety of occupants or users of the site and will not damage the value and diminish the usability of adjacent properties. Finding yes. D, the provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping provide for adequate protection to neighboring properties from the detrimental features of the development. Finding yes. E, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting property as a result of noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, dust, glare, or other cause. Finding yes. F, the provisions of vehicular loading and unloading and parking and for vehicular and pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets will not create hazards to safety. Finding yes. G, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the value of adjacent properties nor have a significant detrimental effect which could be avoided by a reasonable modification of the plan. Finding yes. H, the design of the site will not result in significant flood hazards or flood damage and is in conformance with the applicable flood hazard protection requirements. Finding yes. I, adequate provision has been made for disposal of wastewater or solid waste and for prevention of ground or surface water contamination. Finding yes. J, adequate provision has been made to control erosion or sedimentation. Finding yes. K, adequate provision has been made to handle stormwater runoff or other drainage problems on site. Finding yes. L, the proposed water supply will meet demands of the proposed use for fire protection purposes. Finding yes. M, adequate provision has been made for transportation, storage, and disposal of hazardous substances and materials as defined by state law. Finding yes. The proposed use will not have an adverse effect on significant wildlife vistas or significant scenic vistas or significant wildlife habitat, nor will it have such an impact that could not be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan. Finding is yes. Note, the applicant will restrict the use of fertilizer and pesticides on the lot. Window screens and other design modifications are present to protect against bird collisions and with windows and doors. O, the proposed use will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion. Finding yes. P, existing off-site ways and traffic facilities can safely and conveniently accommodate the increased traffic generated by the development as far away from the development as effects of the development can be traced with reasonable accuracy. Finding yes. Any negative finding by board means the application has been denied. Number 13, the application is otherwise complete. Conclusions. Articles 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it finds one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision. The site plan identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to Article 1010, 1011, and 1012E. 1. The applicants pursuant to 1012E shall notify the planning board prior to transfer of rights to construct an approved project. No assignment or transfer of rights to construct an approved project is valid without prior review and approved by the planning board. 2. The applicants must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the form of a copy thereof attested by the Register of Deeds before any permits may issue or before any construction may actually commence. 3. Window screens or other design modifications will be present to protect against bird collisions for windows and doors. 4, the applicant will comply with all terms and conditions of the town of Kennebunkport as well as the MDEP approvals dated for May 4th, 2022. Okay, so need a motion to approve that as read.
Thank you, Tom, for reading that.
Okay, are you
So
moving
moved.
approval?
So moved.
I'll
Okay,
second.
all right, so I'll go through it. All right, I agree. Nina, agree.
Agree.
Nina, okay, Ed,
Yes, great.
Larry,
Agree.
George.
Yes, agree.
Okay, that brings us to more fun, additional reading of finding of facts, item 220303, Town of Kennebunkport / GEI Consults, Barney Baker, PE, site plan review for the proposed changes to the Cape Porpoise Pier. So Larry, hit it.
Tom,
Okay, well, before I get started, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question
Yeah.
before we get started, because there was the review copy that went around basically raised the issue that I went back, I tried to listen to the last meeting even, but the recording
It's been modified. Yeah, it's all resolved. No issues.
Oh, there's no issues.
Stand
There's
by.
no,
I should just
No.
hold my peace. I
Stand by.
haven't seen
there's
the real
there's an
findings yet.
or.
You haven't seen
There's
the
an
final
or in the
final.
land use ordinance that Larry thought was an and.
Yeah, it's an or. Anyway, let me read this and we can discuss it if you like, but it's pretty clear.
Okay.
It's crystal clear once you have all of the info. So before we get started, I'd just like to thank Barney Baker with GEI Consultants for responding in a very timely manner to our request, our request for information. That's not necessarily so easy to do, but I really appreciate it. That means we can read the finding of facts right now. So this is Kennebunkport Planning Board finding of fact and decision application of the town of Kennebunkport to rehabilitate the Cape Porpoise Pier at 79 and 81 Pier Road, Kennebunkport, Maine. Following a site plan review pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, the March 3rd, 2020 revision on April 20, 2022, and a public hearing held on May 4th, 2022, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following finding of fact and conclusion and renders the following decision. So, finding of facts are as follows. The owner of a record is the town of Kennebunkport with a mailing address of 6 Elm Street, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046. In a letter dated March 17, 2022, owner authorized GEI Consultants applicant with the mailing address of 5 Milk Street, Portland, Maine 04101 to act as agent for this matter. The property has a street address of 79 and 81 Pier Road, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046, and is identified as map 29, block 2, lot 7 on the municipal tax assessor's maps. 4, the property is a conditional use in the Cape Porpoise Square zone. The property also is located in resource protection and shoreland zones. 5, the owner has demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a trustee deed recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, Book 3122, pages 6 through 10, dated February 8, 1983. 6, the property consists of 1 acre, more or less, for a commercial fishing pier and public waterfront access complete with bait shed, which has existed since the year 1980 and upgraded somewhat in the year 1989. The area and volumetric descriptions of the existing bait shop, which will be upgraded and improved, and adjacent impervious parking areas are as follows. The interior area of the bait shed is existing as 2,214 square feet, proposed 2,382 square feet for an increase of 8%. The interior volume is 28,963 cubic feet, proposed is 35,623 cubic feet, which is a 23% increase. The exterior footprint of the bait shop is 2,318 square feet and proposed will be 2,668 square feet for an increase of 15%. And the impervious area coverage is existing is 83%, which is about 36,155 square feet, for an increase of no increase in the impervious area coverage. So the impervious area coverage exceeds the 20% allowed under 4.17.8.5 of the LUO and 70% allowed under 5.10 of LUO. So the property is legally non-conforming. Finally, the building expansions are within the 30% allowed under 8.3 of the land use ordinance. 8, in an application dated March 30, 2022, applicant proposes replacement of the existing bait shed and rehabilitation and expansion of the wharf and float system. Footprint of the bait shop increases in order to accommodate both an exterior enclosed walkway leading to dinghy floats and an overlook for the pier manager on the new second level. 9, utility improvements include year-round potable water supply, connection to existing sanitary sewer adjacent to the bait shop, electrical power upgrades, and fuel system upgrades. Fuel system upgrades include replacing and relocating underground fuel tanks to a location above the predicted 100-year storm flood elevations. The stone seawall will be improved to minimize or avoid future damage during the 100-year storm conditions. The ADA, that's Americans with Disability, features will be incorporated in the upgrades, particularly for the new gangway. 10, the in-water work will occur only during the annual interval November 1st to May 1st. 11, the design lives for upgrades are as follows: the concrete foundation, 50 years, pier support and pier support piles, 50 years, steel guide piles, 25 years, floats, 15 to 20 years, timber deck, 20 years, and fender piles, 10 years. 12, neither vehicle circulation nor parking configuration change from existing arrangements. Modifications to parking arrangements were not considered in this application. 13, a NRPA permit application was submitted to the Maine DEP and Corps of Engineers on March 17, 2022. Discussions with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and Marine Resources and Conservation occurred in conjunction with the Corps of Engineer permit application. 14, applicant provided the approved submerged land lease from the Bureau of Parks and Lands dated March 9, 2022. The applicant, 15, the applicant has requested no submission or performance waivers from the requirements of the land use ordinance. 16, pursuant to the requirements of Article 10.10.a of the land use ordinance, guidelines for decisions, the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings, which otherwise compel denial. The proposed use meets the definition or specific requirements set forth in the land use ordinance and will be in compliance with applicable state or federal laws, finding yes. B, the proposed use will not create fire safety hazards and will provide adequate access to the site or to the buildings on the site for emergency vehicles, finding yes. C, the proposed exterior lighting will not create hazards to motorists traveling on adjacent public streets and is adequate for the safety of occupants or users of the site and will not damage the value and diminish the usability of adjacent properties, finding yes. D, the provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping provide for adequate protection to neighboring properties from detrimental features of the development, finding not applicable. E, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting property as a result of noise, vibration, fumes, odor, dust, glare, or other cause, finding yes. F, the provisions for vehicular loading and unloading and parking and for vehicular and pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets will not create hazards to safety, finding yes. Comment, no changes are proposed for existing vehicle circulation patterns and parking on the property. G, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the value of adjacent properties, nor has a significant detrimental effect which could be avoided by a reasonable modification of the plan, finding yes. H, The design of the site will not result in significant flood hazards or flood damage and is in conformance with applicable flood hazard protection requirements. Finding yes. Comment, the proposed bait shop will include breakaway flood panels at pier level. The upgraded revetment seawall will improve protection from 100-year storm and flood hazard. I, adequate provision has been made for disposal of waste, water, or solid waste and for prevention of ground or surface water contamination. Finding yes. Comment, sanitary sewer connection will be made from the bait shop to the existing sewer, to an existing sewer. Underground fuel tanks will be replaced and relocated to higher ground to minimize impact from 100-year storm. J, adequate provision has been made to control erosion or sedimentation. Finding yes. Comment, erosion and sedimentation control plan is included on Exhibit G2 of Section C of the application. K, adequate provision has been made to handle stormwater runoff or other drainage problems on the site. Finding yes. L, the proposed water supply will meet the demands of the proposed use or for fire protection purposes. Finding yes. M, adequate provision has been made for the transportation, storage, and disposal of hazardous substances and materials and as defined by state law. Finding yes. N, the proposed use will not have an adverse impact on significant scenic vistas or vistas or on significant wildlife habitat, nor will have such an impact that could be avoided by a reasonable modification of the plan. Finding yes. O, the proposed use will not cause unreasonable highway or traffic road congestion. Finding yes. P, existing off-site ways and traffic facilities can safely and conveniently accommodate the increased traffic generated by the development as far away from the development as the effects of the development can be traced with reasonable accuracy. Finding yes. Comment, vehicle access and vehicle parking is unchanged from existing arrangement. 16, when a proposed development will be located within the shoreland or resource protection zones, in addition to the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, Article 10, the town-wide regulations in Article 6, the performance standards for specific activities and land uses in Article 7, approval of the development will also require that board makes positive findings based on the information presented that the proposed use A, will maintain safe and healthful conditions. Finding yes. Will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. Finding yes. Will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. Finding yes. Will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. Finding yes. Comment, screens and or other provisions will be used in windows in the bait shed in order to minimize bird strikes. E, will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters. Finding yes. Will protect, F, will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. Finding not applicable. G, will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. Finding yes. H is in conformance with the performance standards set forth in Section 5.6 erosion and sedimentation control of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. Finding yes. Any negative finding by the board means the application has been denied. 17, the application is otherwise complete. Conclusion, Article 10.10, point A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the board makes no such finding. Decision to site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to the Article 10.11 and 10.12.e. Applicant pursuant to 10.12.e shall notify the planning board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. Number two, the applicant must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the form of a copy thereof attested by the Register of Deeds before any permits may issue or before any construction activity may commence. 3, applicant will comply with all terms and conditions of the town of Kennebunkport ordinances as well as the Maine DEP and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dated May 18, 2022.
I'd like to move that we accept those findings of fact.
Second.
You're on mute, Mr. Chairman. But I bet you said something funny.
Anyway, how's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Anyway,
It's good.
I heard a motion and a second. Fantastic. Okay, I'm in favor. Nina,
In favor.
Ed,
Yes, in favor.
Larry,
In favor.
and George.
In favor.
All righty. Well, now the key thing is everybody has to go in and see April and get these things actually signed. We had our two occurrences in the fire station, so we got to sign them on the spot, and that's the thing in the past for a while. So please get them signed.
While we're in the meeting, is it all right to ask Werner how he's doing? How you doing, Werner?
Oh, all good.
Oh, good.
Thank you for asking. Yeah. Figure I'm good for another 90 days, right?
Okay,
Terrific.
good. And,
Okay,
sorry, go ahead.
have you done the appropriate number of quarantining and with your family and all that before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we took a different approach this time around and said, one's going to get it. We're all going to play with each other. So, but ironically,
Yeah.
none of them got it.
That's
And I
good.
borrowed your pen.
That's right. George grabbed my pen. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So also, could I just go back to try to answer Ed's unstated question about we had some sort of open issues on this, which really resolved around the elevations, and it
I have
seems
no
that
questions.
that was the central issue, and it seems like the current pier out there that supports the bait ship was built over a rock outcrop.
Yeah.
And so the original land elevation was higher than, it's not the beach there. It's actually much higher up. So that resolves the issue.
But it was out over the high water mark, so.
Well, yeah, but it's not, because it's a rock outcrop. See, it's the rock outcrop supports the bait shed. So and of course that wasn't so immediately clear, but that reality resolved all the issues. Okay. So
Cool.
now that we know there's a rock outcrop there, no issues.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I will take a motion
Excuse
to
me.
adjourn if everyone is done here.
I'll
I'll
so
make a
move.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Thumbs up. Okay. We
Thank
are
you.
Good night,
adjourned.
everyone.
Guys.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks.
Night, night.